All right, we should be back. I'm trying to see what happened. All right, so hopefully we're back. Sorry about that, folks. I really don't know what happened there, but it's part of living out in the country, I suppose. My network's, you know, actually, the big fancy network connection I have, I left it at the Go to the Land Fest this weekend. So I got some new stuff coming tomorrow. Hopefully it will. Hopefully we'll be all right. Not sure if we can get through this stream or not, but we'll try. All right. So where we left off. So we're in the passes tab here. Yeah, the machine's still trying to get caught up. We're in the passes tab and optimal load, right? So we're, rather than doing heavy cuts, we're going to be doing high efficiency milling. Right? So we're going to do very, very thin, light cuts, right? Full depth of cut, as fast as we can move it. We want to make sure that we're still getting a bite in there. And if you look at the, well here, I've got this great big mill, this end mill, but, all right. Got to watch it because this thing is really sharp. Now, this thing, you know, you have to get in enough to be cutting, right? So you don't want to rub it. So you could actually end up, if you do too little of a cut, you're just going to rub. It's not going to get in there. You got to get in there and bite it, right? The 5% is square in the high efficiency milling range. In fact, give me a second. I've got, let's see if I can, here we go. This is an Inco that I use. In fact, I used this Inco end mill on this. And it specifically even tells you on high efficiency machining, 10% max radial depth of cut, right? So you've got to watch how hard you're engaging. So use these parameters. It's really simple to set this. You know, tool diameter, 5%, right? Pretty straightforward. 5% is probably on the upper end of what this can do at the speeds and feeds that I'm doing. Anywhere from 3 to 5% is going to be in a good spot. So that gives us lots of chip thinning. So you definitely have to be careful on this and make sure that you're getting those chips out of the way. Use good flood coolant. This is why, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you might notice that I added in some additional flood coolant on my 440, and that's why, right? Because I do all the machining that I do on that is using high efficiency machining. So I'm often getting those long stringy chips. They're not bad, they cut well, and as you can see, on my part, I get really good finishes, but it's just something to keep in mind. So that's one of those things that you've got to watch for. Stock to leave is another area that you need to watch, right? Try not to go above, if you're going to do single pass when you do your cleanup, try not to go more than about 10 thou on your stock to leave. I know that the defaults in the classes, they're probably closer to like 20 thou, even some of them are up to even 50 thou. If your machine's not that big, you have to use a slightly smaller setting here. Craig, hey, thanks. It's good to see you again, bud. Thanks for being on here. My cough drop just wore out, so we'll see how long I can talk before I need to grab another one. Of course, they're in the other part of the shop. I'll have to get up and run over there in a second. Other than that, though, we're pretty much the same, right? So come in, we do contours. Yeah, and because we left that 10 thou, if you look at our speeds and feeds, 50 inches a minute, one thou per tooth. It's not bad at all when you look at your feeds and speeds. And remember, this machine caps out, maxes at 130 inches a minute. And frankly, you've got acceleration, deceleration time in there. So 50 inches a minute, 75 inches a minute, that's decent cutting speeds. We're going to repeat the process here. We're going to clean up the floor at the same time. You see how we go and do the multiples, right? We come into our chamfers. Now, this is an area where having a 10,000 RPM spindle is kind of nice, right? I can come in here and do these chamfers at 50 inches a minute too, right? So I can come in and clean up and move pretty quick. So, Michael in Statesville. Hey, Michael. We're not that far apart. I'm in Anger, so Raleigh area. So, cool. Excellent. Yep, so then drilling, right? Make sure you're doing, in this case, you know, when I'm doing my spotting, I'm also putting the chamfer in. Again, follow what's in the instruction on the website. It's going to get you, it's going to teach you how to do that math. It's really, really quick and simple. Drilling is something that I do a little differently, again, because this machine doesn't have a whole lot of horsepower. So pecking depth, you can see here that I'm doing. Again, I use expressions quite a bit, so I'm doing 1/4 of the diameter for the peck depth, right? So let it come in, you know, drill those out. Now, the last thing that we do differently here is we're doing thread milling, right? So the 440 can't do rigid tapping, right? So we're going to do thread milling. So 8,000 RPM, you know, for spindle speed. You can't. This is new. You can do a ramp spindle speed too. But you know, it's cutting feed rate, 25 inches a minute. Now, this is stuff that if you haven't done thread milling before, you really got to watch this because it can be really unnerving. The first thing that I want to point out to you, and I'm going to do this out of order because I normally would work my way left to right. I'm going to go to linking and make sure, I can't stress this enough, make sure lead to center is selected, right? You need to have lead to center turned on for thread milling. Otherwise, it's going to be offset a little bit and it's going to scrape on the way down, right? So you definitely have to have that. Otherwise, when you're looking at your passes, you know, your thread pitch and diameter offsets, these kinds of things are things that you can get right out of Machiner's Handbook. John Saunders at NYC CNC's got a nice spreadsheet that's got a lot of this information in there as well. With thread milling, especially since I'm doing a single point thread mill, I might tell it to do repeat passes, right? But believe it or not, you know, with this thread mill going around and cutting it, you probably can do this in one pass. Depends on what your thread engagement is that you need, right? And this is the important part. So what's cool about thread milling though is you can run this, check with a go no-go gauge, and you can dial it in just right. You know, that's something different that, you know, with rigid tapping you can't do, right? You know, you put that tap in and come back out. That's it. You had basically one shot at it. With thread milling, you really get the ability to dial in that that thread. Douglas, awesome to see you, buddy. Dude, that's awesome. Oh, Dunk, why are you still awake? Man, it's late there. Yeah, so that's the big things you got to keep in mind, right? When you're trying to do this with the with a smaller machine, it can definitely be done. It's not going to be fast, you know. I mean, I think. You know, this part takes me under 4 minutes to make in the Brother. It was, you know, at conservative speeds, I think I was at about 25 minutes in the Tormach. If we look at machining time here, it's saying 12 and a half, but it's not. That's not true, right? That's using rapids that are set for my other machine, so that's definitely not right. So, Daniel, hey, buddy. How are things in New Zealand? Man, it's awesome to see everybody here today. Yeah, so anyways, let's back out of here for a second. Or let's actually, you know what, let me back up. Are there any questions? I'm going to give this a second because there is a bit of buffer. I'm going to give this a second. You guys ask questions. I'm going to go get another cough drop. So I apologize. I hate leaving the screen like that, but at least having a wireless mic, y'all can still kind of hear me. Let's see if any questions so far. So again, we've been talking about the Academy, using the Academy for different activities. You know, we talked about 3D printing the parts. We talked about actually using the cam. Eric, awesome. Dude, I hope everything's going well. I've been following your rapids, your rapid override switch. Oh, look at that. Do right fabrication. Man, everybody's showing up. That's awesome. I don't know how well this stream is working for everybody. It's already dropped on me once during the streams, so I'm not sure how far back everybody is. All right. So, any questions? Anything else we can do? Cold and rainy day. Yeah, it's kind of cold here. We'll give it just another second and we'll see. Oh, Eric, I'm sorry. You're right. That is Mike, isn't it? Yeah, I felt stupid on that one. It was. Eric, you're back in Michigan. Oh, our Lions lost yesterday, man. Did you watch that game? Sorry. For those of you who don't know, even though I live in North Carolina, my family is originally from Michigan. And so, you know, Thanksgiving Day is a big football thing, you know, time for us. So, yeah, but it's just one of those days, I guess. All right, so we talked a little bit about strategies on this. The big things again, if you're using a smaller machine, if you're not on a larger machine, is just make adjustments to it. You know, you can do these classes. They're actually pretty interesting. We've got a group showing up tomorrow. Jim, thanks. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, and I left my network cable there, so I'm doing everything on Wi-Fi out here, and it's gonna give or take a little bit. But all right, let's switch views here. Okay, so Duncan, get some rest, buddy. So yeah, again, you know, you can 3D print these things. Any of these parts that you do. You don't have to have a machine. You can still learn quite a bit about doing design, about what makes for good design. You can learn about what it takes to actually make them. But you can get your prototypes on 3D printing. About half of the folks that come out to our small group are actually they're not machinists. They don't really other than machines here. They that's not really what they want to do. We've got a 3D printer, an X-Carve, and actually, if I ever pick the thing up, there's a laser cutter going to be over here as well. And so, yeah, you know, we've been working with people about doing lots of different methods. But the big thing is helping people understand that you can get out and do these things. Ace, where are you located? So, let me bring something up again. Let's see, we'll switch views. Okay, so once you log in, let me log in as me. There we are. I think that's my password. Yeah, okay. All right, in the resources, right, there's Academy Small Groups. Okay, and from the Academy Small Groups, you can join a small group or you can host. Now, in the maps, you can go around. Actually, that's me right there. That is mine, right? So if you were looking for me, this is how you'd get me. In fact, I just got a couple of emails in. Man, I've been so sick this week, I haven't had a chance to respond. But when you sign up for a group, the group leader will get an email to contact you about it. So when you join a small group, you would then click on the join button and you'd put in your information for it. So you're in Utah? Well, let's take a look. I'll be honest, I don't know what's in the Utah area, if there is anything in the Utah area. Boise, Salt Lake. Well, I don't know where you are in Utah, but there's a couple. Something, Orem, it looks like. Is that Orem? Yeah, that's some. And then another one up in Ogden. So there's a couple of groups. I don't know if that's helpful to you or not. But there are a couple of small groups in the area. So Ace, hopefully that'll help. All right. But yeah, you can join a small group. So this is one thing that I did when I was looking at this. Is I I went to join a group. Right? I actually clicked on the join join a small group and saw that there wasn't, and I'll show you again. The closest group for me was in Charlotte. Right now, this is an awesome group. You know, Chris's group is an awesome group, absolutely. But that's 3 hours away from me. So I actually talked to Chris about it, and he highly encouraged me to just start my own group. I've got a very small shop. All right, my shop, I mean, you can't really tell from the screen here, but you know, I've got what do I've got? I've got the brother. I've got a couple of Tormach machines, a lathe and a mill. I got a couple of manual machines. I got a CNC plasma cutter. You know, so I've got a variety of things, but I'm a one-man shop. You know, this is just a little job shop. But you know what I do have is I have time, and I'm willing to help other people out, right? So that's the big difference for me. Is I basically was able to say, okay, well, let's sit down and do it. Let's get going. What is cool about this, though, I have to admit, is even for the folks who don't want to become machinists, the ones that have actually gotten on a mill and started making chips, they're pretty excited about it. They definitely enjoy it. So hopefully we'll be able to kindle that a little bit and get people to do a little bit more. That was all I had for tonight, and you can tell my voice is going. I can't stay too much longer tonight, but I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to see what the Academy is. You know, just get a different perspective on it. You know, Titan. I love Titan. I really do. I met him. You know, I met him out at IMTS. He really is a great guy. He's a genuine guy. But I think a lot of people, when they see this stuff, it's very, very focused on, you know, manufacturing. And I think people miss out on the fact that there's a whole lot more that you can do with this. It doesn't have to be just manufacturing. So that's what I'm trying to get across to people is, you know, help them see the other side of this, because it is free. And you know, if there is a group in the area, like, you know, we do a cost recovery model here, so I don't charge anything. But at the same time, if you're using my materials, you break one of my tools, something like that, you know, hey, you know, you got to at least cover that cost. But I mean, what was that, $5 for the aluminum? It's not that much. All right, Michael, you saw a couple of his videos earlier today. Yeah, he's got a couple of them out there. Again, check out that site. You know, it's academy.titansofcnc.com. Check out the website. I'd start with the building block series, but there's a lot in the education tab. There's an awful lot of information in there, so you can get all sorts of. It'll teach you how to install a vise, how to pick up a corner, right? Your work coordinate systems, things that maybe if you're brand new to things you don't get. I even show people, because I've got a probe on my 440, I show people how to use the probing system and how to run probing routines on it. We're even using it almost like a poor man's CMM at this point, you know, giving people options. Not everybody's going to have these big expensive machines. So definitely check it out. Craig, it's good to see you, bud. Thank you for showing up. I hope you're having a good Friday. Hope things in Phoenix are good. But yeah, sorry I keep looking over. I got two screens, and I got the chat over on this side, and the camera's here. So maybe we should put it right in the middle. I'd never be looking at anybody. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up. Again, it's actually, we had about 20 minutes on the first part of it before it dropped. So I want to go ahead and call this one a day. What I will do, though, I'll let you know that I actually shot video of making this part. So I'm going to start editing that, and I will actually put I'll put a video out, pretty soon, in the next day or two, something like that, in the next couple of days, of making this actual part, and we'll get that out. So thanks again for everybody. I do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody joining tonight and putting up with my network problems and stuff like that. And hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to you again soon. Take care.